Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Tuesday, November the 4th, 2025, and today we are talking about lasagna gardening at scale, some fun farmer recipes, and a challenge for you all, plus why I kind of miss our farm livestock, but also why we won't probably bring them back anytime soon. So let's do it. All right, everyone, welcome to Tilth Tuesday. Every Tuesday this year will be brought to you by our friends at Tilth Soil, and it's officially their pre-sale season for the 2026 season. So check that out at tilthsoil.com/farmers to get a pretty sweet deal on potting mix for next season. Link will be in the show notes. Had a relatively laid-back work day again yesterday, just getting some of our elephant garlic finally popped and planted. We're cutting back a bit on that crop on how much we grow. So I'm just, kind of going to use it as a filler in the high tunnel edges where we usually grow our ginger, or grew it this year at least. It's a crop I could probably sell more of, but it's a better chef and farmer's market item. So although we do sell to some restaurants at the moment, they do not have a big need for elephant garlic. So we're not going to phase it out entirely because the alliums it produces alone are worth having around, but pulling back enough to just keep the seed going. Anyway, I worked on that and got our milpa bean seed also separated for next year, for the next year's patch, getting those a little bit more adapted to our climate and to my whimsicalness. So I got that all separated and ready to go. And then last night we had our first of our indoor soccer clubs where we get a bunch of kids together at a local gym and just let them kind of play soccer, just some basic pickup soccer. Sometimes kids just need to, get to play the sport for fun and enjoy it and remember that it's just a game. And so it's super fun for us to get to, give them that chance. And it's super cool to watch them just like play around, ball out. Oh, and a thing on the 20-second farm video clips real quick. Obviously, you can send those in to farmermike@no-tillgrowers.com. We always love seeing your 20-second farm video clips of, your gardens, your farms, etc. But also, stay tuned for the second segment for this month's special challenge. It's going to cook, as the kids say. At least they did until I said it. That's how these things work. So continuing on with our mulch series, I thought today we could talk a bit about lasagna gardening. Lasagna gardening is when carbon is layered with compost or sometimes manure, but more so for immediate planting with compost. The number of layers and materials is a little bit up to the grower, but the idea is that the layers will slowly decompose, becoming not only a mulch and growing medium, but somewhat self-fertilizing. And for many years, I thought this was a pretty cool idea, but not really something I could imagine scaling up myself to actual larger scale production like we do. I felt that way, that is, until meeting Jared Smith of Jared's Real Food in San Diego, who fearlessly utilized this idea on several acres. And after seeing his farm and its abundant production in person one year, videos linked in the show notes, it definitely changed my perspective on this method as something that could be scaled up for sure. And as a side digression here, since then, I have started to look more closely at things like landscapers and backyard growers on what they do and wondering about, scaling those ideas to a production context. Sometimes it's just about making that mental and occasionally equipment leap as much as it is about implementing a small scale practice on a larger scale. Anyway, the idea is simple. Assuming you have access to fresh, trustworthy straw and compost, you can simply lay the straw down, then several inches of compost, and then go from there. Or you can add another layer of straw if you want a surface mulch, or another layer of straw and another layer of compost, if you have the material and time, of course. Then typically you would allow that to break down before planting, but if the compost is in a decent place, like it's good compost ready to plant, you may be able to get away with just planting straight away. Preferably, the breakdown period would be heated, though. It's good for the soil to kind of get ready for those plant roots coming in. Anyway, instead of straw, you could use cardboard, as we've discussed yesterday, or maybe you use something like cardboard or straw or mulch paper or something on the bottom layer, and then you use straw in the middle or whatever. You can mix up your carbons. It's totally fair game. I've also had some luck using hay as the bottom layer, though I do suspect that later on some grass seed issues that we had were due to this combo, but the production was good and the soil was happy, so that's cool. Chopped leaves could also serve as the carbon layer, provided you allow for enough time for that to decompose. That would be a little harder, like if you're trying to plant directly into it, because leaves will take up some of your nitrogen. Water is also going to be essential to allow any carbons that you put in there to decompose. And that may be one issue you have. Irrigation may not always be so easy with the many holes and layers in this. They're not going to allow for good water penetration, or at least not good water spreading. It's basically just going to drop through it. In some ways, and I've even come across research that suggests one way to mitigate the excess nutrients provided by compost and deep compost mulch systems is indeed carbon. So if all the materials are there for you, lasagna gardening / farming can be the ideal option for people interested in deep compost mulching. Now, obviously, when you double the materials, you double the risk of things like contaminants. So there's that. You do have to take all those things into consideration. But anyway, do you all have any experiences using this method, large or small scale? A good, bad, ugly, maybe? Agree? Let us know. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will get cooking. Like the kids say. Yeah. 6-7. Oh, BRB.
All right, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this is just purple nettle. It is a winter weed, and it is kind of the most amazing weed. One, it grows all winter when it has absolutely like no competition, and it loves, carrot beds. But the thing about it is this root system is absolutely out of control. So one of the cool things that it does is it just really, really replenishes the top little bit of the soil. So as a recovery species, it's kind of genius. As a weed, it's also kind of genius, which I admit is a little annoying.
Today's episode is brought to you by High Mowing Organic Seeds. High Mowing Organic Seeds is celebrating their 30th anniversary with 47 fabulous new varieties for 2026. Highlights include downy mildew-resistant cucumbers, a poppy that looks like cotton candy, and 12 new tomato varieties. High Mowing offers more than 750 varieties of certified organic, non-GMO vegetables, flowers, herbs, and cover crops, all trialed for optimal performance in organic growing systems. High Mowing has the professional quality seeds and supportive grower reps to get you from seed to harvest. Visit highmowingseeds.com to request a catalog and use code 26NOTILL, all one word, 26NOTILL, for 10% off your order of $100 or more. That's highmowingseeds.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Farmhand. Farmers who partnered with Farmhand say they grew an average of 63% this year because it's more than software. Farmhand is your business coach and assistant, helping to sell out, save time, and grow smarter with real data from real farms, shaping websites that convert, campaigns that sell, and fulfillment systems that run smoothly. Curious what that looks like? Meet the founder, Ari, at farmhand.partners/no-till and see the same insights and support the fastest growing farms rely on every week. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Andy Novak at Mother Farm, who writes, quote, "Hey Jesse and any other farmer cooks out there, I wanted to throw out a fun topic this time. Like you, I came to farming through food. I almost went to culinary school, but chose a different direction instead, but food and cooking has always remained part of my life. In the off season, I'm a cook at a local restaurant and enjoy cooking in general. Recently, my wife and I decided that Sundays are our slow day and that our breakfast would be made by what we could come up with from the garden. Our first breakfast was beet bowls, roasted beets with other root veg, with bacon, sauteed beet greens, topped with feta and fried eggs and microgreens, and it was amazing. Sounds great. Given your culinary skills, I'm curious if you have favorite out of the garden recipes," end quote. All right, so great question, and I know I've touched on this a bit before, at least this idea, but it is always fun to chat about recipes. I feel like mixing it up, right? What's the point of growing food if you're not going to enjoy cooking it? I also thought I would use this question, though, to introduce our video challenge for the month of November. So before I get into the whole actually answering the question thing, we want to see your garden dishes, especially as we head into the holiday season where baking and cooking is a big part of the haps. So anyway, your 20-second farm video clip challenge this month is to show us something you cooked from your garden. Remember, 20 seconds only. Send that along to farmermike@no-tillgrowers.com, and we will fit those into the show to show some love to you all. You all rock, and I will remind you again tomorrow that you all rock, but also about this challenge. Now, the thing about me and cooking is usually time, and not THYME, though not THYME, but TIME, time. As we open up more, quote unquote free time here going into the winter, I will start to get a bit more elaborate with our meals. But my strategy, as I've talked about before in various segments, is pretty simple. It starts with a starch. So that would be like pizza dough or pasta, sourdough bread, rice, whatever the starch is that we didn't eat last and are in a mood for. That's usually where, our meals begin. Then it's about finding the protein, sometimes meat, but also sometimes mushrooms, or we just go full on veggies with loads of things like spinach and other leafy greens, or maybe it's beans or lentils or whatever. We like to get creative with that part just because we have so many options and because, diversity in the diet. Then we just match the best veggies that we have at the time with whatever it is that we were cooking. So recipes aren't always my forte because I don't exactly have a recipe for the stuff that I put over, say, rice. It's usually just me sauteing some onions, adding some protein, some tomatoes, mixing in some greens, and maybe some curry powder and blammo, like deliciousness, especially when finished with some crispy chili sauce and or some fresh garlic. Mike and I tend to slam this crispy chili sauce with our lunches. Anyway, some flavor combos that I love here in the fall, though, are sweet potatoes with cilantro, a super underrated combo and you can tell I've been watching a lot of Premier League soccer when I end my sentences with the word that. Anyway, that will make sense for my British friends. I also love a little shaved raw winter squash with fresh herbs like cilantro and parsley. Add just a little bit of that to salad and it's nice crunch. Mint and roasted beets with ricotta is another killer combo. My buddy Andy is the chef at Barvetti here in Louisville, and he turned me onto this combo, and it's just absolutely incredible. Honestly, the first time I had it, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever eaten. But beets tend to make me hyperbolic, so that's just how it goes. I don't think I have any photos of my sweet potato gratin that I'm aware of, but that's been a hit for years. Basically, it's sweet potatoes, 2 cloves of garlic, heavy cream is needed to cover in the dish, a cup of shredded Parmesan, tablespoon of salt, teaspoon of fresh cracked pepper, a couple teaspoons of chopped rosemary. Super simple, so it doesn't need a ton of ingredients. All I do is I slice those sweet potatoes really thin, toss them in the cream with all those ingredients mixed in, then bake it covered in a pan at like 350 degrees or thereabouts for an hour-ish until a fork will go through it easily. Then I remove that tinfoil cover and then crisp it on top under the broiler or something with some extra cheese. It's pretty rich, but it becomes the most delicious side dish, especially for something like Thanksgiving, especially if your sweet potatoes are as heavenly as ours. And I don't think I've ever used that word, heavenly. So, I'm serious about this recipe. That's probably my best quote unquote recipe. But most of the time for me, it's just about what is the starch I want at that time, and then how do I incorporate the veggies? Oftentimes, you get really interesting combos that way, especially in that transition period between seasons when you get, say, tomatoes still, but with sweet potatoes. Stewed tomatoes and sweet potatoes is another one of my jams. Any way that I can work that combo into a dish, I definitely do so. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and recipes, and I hereby challenge you to your 20-second garden recipe videos. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about why I miss farm animals on the farm and why they are probably not coming back. But I do miss them. Probably not coming back, though. We will be right back. Nailed that one. I ran out of water, so I'm just supplementing with more coffee. Let's see how that goes. Today's episode is brought to you by Johnny's Selected Seeds. Johnny's Selected Seeds is a proud supporter of Growers Daily. At Johnny's, they do more than sell seeds. They grow them. They trial them to see how they perform on Johnny's research farm in Maine and across the U.S. and Canada. Only the best varieties are added to their catalog and website. When you need proven varieties you can count on and detailed guidance from seedling to harvest, consider Johnny's your trusted growing partner. JohnnySeeds.com. That's JohnnySeeds.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Marble Seed. The Marble Seed Organic Farming Conference attracts a wide range of regenerative and organic farmers for 3 days of skill development and community building. Farmer Drew Kramer said, "Going to Marble Seed was so invigorating at a time when I needed it most. I picked up tools I'm already using." The conference is the final week in February in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Early registration opens December 4th at conference.marbleseed.org. That's conference.marbleseed.org. All right, back to the show. All right, so for our third and final segment of the day, I thought we could talk about why I kind of miss livestock. So Hannah and I kind of have had livestock on our farm for basically every year we farmed until the last 2. Now, by livestock, I could mean just a handful of ducks or chickens, something like that. But also, I mean basically all livestock. We've had goats for a time, pigs, sheep, turkeys. When we were interning, we worked with cattle also. We've kind of done it all in that regard. But then a couple years ago, we invested pretty heavily in laying hens, which we've had laying hens basically every year. But this year I'm talking about, we invested pretty heavily in them, starting out as chicks. We raised them until they were finally able to get on pasture with our existing hens, and a neighbor's dog came and jumped our electric fence and killed every one of them. Setting that part of the story aside, though, what it really meant in that moment for us, at least in this new farm, in order for us to safely have chickens on this property where we are very close to other people and rotate them around the gardens in the way that we like to rotate them, we'd have to have some much more serious infrastructure, and specifically fencing. And really that goes for any animal we'd like to have. It's not like the dogs wouldn't have also chased our sheep or goats or calves or turkeys and so on. Maybe pigs. Pigs would also chase the dogs. Or we could get a donkey, which would be fun, but also donkeys can be expensive. But anyway, after that, we recognized we weren't really set up to have animals here. And to some extent, after a decade and a half of dealing with animals every day, of hauling the feed, the water, finding someone to watch them so that we could leave the farm occasionally, all the daily things they require to keep them healthy and safe, it was going to be nice for us to take a break from them. And to be sure, it's been real nice, honestly. We can actually take vacations without our neighbor calling to tell us that the sheep were missing or whatever. But I'd be lying if I said I felt that the farm was as happy as it used to be. There is just something about animals that bring life and rhythm to a farm, probably the life itself, to state the obvious, but also the daily chores they create, the rhythm, what they do for the soil, what they do to the landscape. I had a strong love-hate with the chickens, but being able to move them into garden plots to feed the soil for the next season was magical. Having them shred and enrich compost was always a treat. No other tool can really do what they do and then give you an egg as a result. Or the sheep and the way that they could just transform pastures and help me enrich our cover cropped beds. I loved that. However, when I would take a step back and look at how much labor and money they required at our scale, they never really made money. Definitely not the sheep. They would almost break even at around 25 heads, but I mathed out that it would require at least 100 heads to make a profit, which would require more land than we had, which would erase the profit at 100 heads. It's complicated. The chickens could break even at around 30 heads for the amount we were spending on feed and fencing at the time and labor, but just barely. The eggs were better than almost anything I could purchase, almost certainly. There's a value in that as me, as someone who loves food, obviously, it was okay to spend a little extra to have our own eggs. And some of our customers love that we offered a few animal products like eggs, but also meat at times. It just never really made the financial sense that it needed to, raising animals, especially given the labor and given our capacity. It's hard to do both veggie production and animal production well on a small scale. Not impossible, certainly, and there are many examples out there, but it definitely requires a lot of labor. Animals, to me, if we had more space and especially infrastructure to offer, would be one place I would love to open our land up to, have someone else start that business here. Again, we don't have the space for that, but if you had like an extra 10 acres, or if you were farming on 10 acres and you were only really using 1 acre for veggies, you could offer that remaining like 9 acres for someone to, wanting to start an egg business. Or if you had more than 10 extra, maybe some other bigger livestock, then you could watch each other's operations. So you could each, do things like go on vacation or go to weddings or whatever as part of the deal. That stuff that farmers rarely get to do. This is where farm collaborations make all the sense in the world to me. You could have the benefits of animals without the stress and added expense by just letting somebody else start another business on your farm. Anyway, I miss our animals a lot sometimes, but I also know we're not in a place to bring them back onto this land, not yet at least. However, I think it's important for growers to know that livestock can really bring something special to a farm, but perhaps more importantly, that you don't have to be the one to manage them for the livestock to do so. Anyway, that strike a chord with anyone? Let us know. Again, I know lots of growers who do both, but I, without anything but anecdotal evidence, feel like I'm seeing more and more growers, sort of specialize, like just grow veggies or just raise livestock. In a way, I think that's a good thing. Specialization can lead to more stable businesses, but also it can lead to farms missing a little bit of that liveliness and biodiversity. So what say you all? Otherwise, that's it for this Tilth Tuesday, and we will do it all over again tomorrow. Don't forget, No Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. You can learn more about how to do that in the show notes. Please make sure to like and subscribe and/or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That is an easy way to help us out. It's free, easy and free. Awesome. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor this show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at no-till-growers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music and Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at no-till-growers.com to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/no-till-growers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, you sign up in the month of November, you get a shout on the show. So no new signups today. Again, not a surprise, headed into our slow season here in the content creation about gardening world. So we will just save the best stories for the spring, because it's not like I make them up every day or anything like that. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching and listening and supporting and sharing and doing all the things. We will see you tomorrow. Bye.